to start now because we have a full week, week of faithful development and learning to try to pack into just an hour and a quarter. So please make yourself comfortable with some chocolate time. I am Karen LoBracco. I currently serve the St. Lawrence and Ohio Meadville districts as lifespan faith development consultant. I'm delighted to be here with you. And we have Leah Purcell. Ta-da! Michelle George Yates. All right. Melissa McKinnon. And Sonia Jensen. And each of them will have a time to share with you. This workshop came as part of a continuation of conversations that started at the Liberal Religious Educators Fall Conference this past year. And so what we're going to do is share with you a portion of a video of a presentation to give you kind of a big picture framework of the conversation as it was. So this was a professional organization. So just have that in your mind.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity to share what we've worked on as part of the FOSS Fellowship this year. Before I get into it, I want to let you know that everything I'm going to talk about this afternoon is collected on this website that's called Full Week Faith, fullweekfaith.weebly.com. You can access any of the information that I talk about today on this website. So I have felt like it's been a really great privilege to have worked on this year on taking some time to think really deeply about innovations in multi-generational faith formation. And it's been particularly a privilege for me because I feel like faith formation is the core essential work that we do as church. It is heart-stretching, soul-saving, and life-transforming work, and what a gift to be able to do this work with our people. So while I am really passionate about how important this work is, I know that not all of our people might feel the same way. I work on a district staff team in the New England region, and I hear stories in that role. I hear stories from people who are experiencing dramatic drops in church school attendance. I hear stories of teachers who spend hours preparing lesson plans, and on a Sunday morning, one student shows up, if that. I had one dairy tell me this year about a family that was registering their children for religious education classes, and the mom said, you know, we love coming to church. We really enjoy it here, but we're not going to be regular attenders. You will probably see the kids 10 or 12 times this year. And our good colleague thought to himself, well, that gives me the equivalent about half a day to support your children's spiritual growth and development this year. Now, I know that I'm not alone in noticing that our families sometimes have other places to be on Sunday mornings. So I get these calls from religious educators and ministers and lay leaders, and they're all struggling with the same questions. What can we offer? Who should we hire? What do we do to bring our people back to us on Sunday mornings? So when I was asked to spend a year thinking about innovation in multi-generational faith formation, I thought, this is it. This is my chance. I am going to find the next big thing. That fabulous tool, that perfect thing that will inspire people to come back to our churches on Sunday mornings. So I set out to find the thing. And it did not take me very long to realize that something happened. Something turned me around pretty quickly. You know how sometimes the way to address a problem is to change your perspective in approaching the problem? Well, I had a big perspective shift. My revelation was around the question I was asking. I had been asking, what do we do to bring our families back to us on Sunday mornings? But here's the thing. They're not coming back. They're not in the numbers that they once did. The world has changed. We all know this. Think about how much has changed in just the last generation or two. Changes in family structure, in technology, communication, education. We can go through the litany of all of the societal changes and consider the impacts that has on the work we do in churches. Any of us who have read John Roberto's Faith Formation 2020 or gone to one of his workshops, and incidentally in the last year about 200 Unitarian Universalists in this country have been to one of his workshops. So we know this academically, and all of us sense it intuitively. But what really sparked my giant perspective shift was reading the theologian and author Phyllis Tickle, who writes, every 500 years, give or take a decade or two, Western culture, which includes Western religion, goes through a time of enormous upheaval, a time in which every part of it is essentially reconfigured. Does that sound familiar? It resonated for me. It was in the year 1517 that Martin Luther banged a note on the door of a church and sparked something we call the Protestant Reformation, which was kind of a game changer in the world of church. And here we are, almost exactly 500 years later, right this minute, we're standing at the emergence of the postmodern era. So we're in the middle of something big. No matter what technical fixes we try or adjustments we try to make, the promise of our postmodern era, of this age of diverse family structures and digital communication networks and secularized Sundays, is not getting families to come back to church on Sunday mornings. I'd been asking the wrong question. A better question might be this: how would we shape our ministries of faith formation in our postmodern era if we were building them from scratch today? Now, there is a bazillion ways that this question could be answered, and I am offering one, and I call it full week faith. Full week faith is an invitation to hold on to what is essential and to what continues to serve our people, and to believe that absolutely everything else is up for grabs. What if? What if our resources, our mission, and our passion stayed the same, but we shifted to a new postmodern perspective on faith formation? What if, for example, faith formation included, but did not depend on, Sunday morning RE classes? What if congregations hired religious professionals with the expectation that they would spend at least as much time preparing us to live the rest of the week as they do preparing us for a single Sunday morning experience? And what would our congregations look like if we didn't have Sunday school classes every week? Now I'm going to pause here to share briefly what kind of parent I was when my kid was young. When my son entered first grade, 3 weeks into the school year, I called the principal and said he's got to be moved to a different class, because clearly this teacher did not know how to do her job. I'm embarrassed to say I was that parent. But the reason I felt that way was because it had been 3 weeks into the school year and he had not come home with a single worksheet with those columns of addition problems to practice at home. So obviously he was not learning math. He'd be held back in second grade. He wouldn't get into Harvard or Meadville Lombard. And his life would be ruined. The principal and the teacher were both very generous with me and sat me down and explained to me the ways in which the teaching of math had changed over 25 years ago since I had been in first grade. And I share that story because I'm aware that our religious professionals are going back to work in congregations, to work with good and faithful people who come into our churches with their own pictures of what faith formation is supposed to look like. And it looks like a traditional Sunday school class in most cases. So I know if you're seeing this presentation and you go back to your church and say, hey, what about this idea? What if we don't have RE classes every week? There might be some skepticism, there might be some suspicion, like how do we know you're doing your job if there's no classes? And how do we know if our kids are learning what we need to learn? So as part of this work that I did for FOS this year, I wrote this paper, which is also available on the website, that is accessible, that religious professionals can take back to their congregations and share with their laity to give them a little bit of an overview about how faith formation and how the life of church has changed in the last couple of generations. And also to help inform people about what's happening now in the world that is calling us to re-examine our practices, and urgently. So a little more about what I mean by full week faith. I think of it kind of as a mashup between family ministry and mission-driven church, with a faithful leveraging of technology and social media to magnify our impact. So when individuals and families and congregations are living a full week faith, people of all generations are able to practice and engage in Unitarian Universalism all week long, wherever we are. Inspiration will flow not just in one direction, not from clergy down to laity, but in all directions, up and down the chain, within congregations and between them. And finally, full week faith means that we religious professionals are helping to equip people by leveraging opportunities to engage in curriculum, call, covenant, community, and our church's place in the world. So that may sound either complicated or really abstract. So let's take a brief journey through a hypothetical congregation that is living a full week faith model, of faith formation.
We're going to stop here because she goes into talking about hypothetical congregation and how they might do that. And what we have here is some examples from real life congregations in our midst and what they are doing. So
this is, and I'm Leah Purcell again, and so this is my foray into a full week faith curriculum or experience. So I had heard from a couple of parents that they were interested in learning about world religions with their children as a way to become more culturally competent. So I said, aha, what can I do for that? I had done evensong for families before, and that was, we did a potluck, and then sort of like a small group ministry for families. So I said, well, I want to have this goal so that the children and adults could hear stories from different religions and then bring that to their spiritual and ethical lives. Oh, right. So what does that involve for the professional staff? So what I did was I looked at some of the resources and I thought, I can get stories from the children's curriculum in Tapestry of Faith from different world religions. And there just happens to be an 8th and 9th grade Tapestry of Faith curriculum on world religion. So what if I do a story and a couple of activities? And we have a potluck and we have this multi-generational workshop series. But having listened to Karen Bellavant's Grace, I thought, well, how do they live that every day of their full week faith at home? So we have this additional taking it home piece to remember. So I would encourage parents to remind their kids of the stories that they heard in the workshops and see if anything in their daily lives reminded them of what things that went on in the stories, the lessons that they learned from the stories. Could those have been applied to their everyday experiences? And then taking it further, we could organize the workshop participants to lead and enact a story during the service with a message for all ages. So that kind of like distinguishes it from other kind of offerings that you might do. Is how can I extend this learning so that people can bring it home into their daily lives? So this is what we call an experilearn experience. This is what I created for a workshop on Hinduism. The story, the cat, comes from Love Will Guide Us, which is grades 2 and 3. And it's a story about practicing compassion and what happens when you don't practice. And the activities come from building bridges. So I wanted to look at activity number 4, which is looking at our UU challenge sliding and the 4 paths to the ultimate in Hinduism. So, how many people have been in a Sunday school classroom recently and have been there for the chalice lighting? And it kind of goes, we light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the loving heart. This is the church of the helping hands. So, in Hinduism, they have 4 paths to get closer to the ultimate, to the divine. And so we as Unitarian Universalists might say, okay, well that might mean for us finding a way towards truth and meaning. So we have those 3 paths in our chalice lighting. So there's the path of thinking, there's the path of doing, there's the path of feeling. And in Hinduism, this can be demonstrating love through worship and prayer. So there's a 4th path that is not in our chalice lighting, and in Hinduism, that is meditation. So maybe we could add something in our chalice lighting to listening, right? So maybe being still, listening to that still small voice within us. So after I have explained that to people a little bit, I would ask, which do you feel most drawn to? I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 2 to 4 right now. So think for a minute. If you had a path that you were most drawn to in your search for truth and meaning, what would it be? Would it be the thinking, the feeling, praying and worship? Would it be acts of faith? Or would it be meditating and waiting for that still small voice? So you're kind of in groups already. Everybody just turns to the people in the rows and spends a minute. Maybe you have the same path, maybe you have a different path, but share with each other.
Okay.
Oh man. So lots of lively conversation there. In our real life situation, of course, we give everybody a little more time and space. And especially if you're working with young children, then you need to leave a lot of time and space in a small group for them to talk as well. So next we might sort of say, what were your insights and connections? So does anybody have any insight that they want to share now just with what they connected with in their roommates? What was that like, first of all, to do that exercise?
I didn't want to choose.
It was fun, you didn't want to choose. And in real life, when you're practicing Hinduism, they do overlap. I think they do in UU too. They do in UU too. So it was sort of a gut reaction, you knew right away what it was. So I haven't finished this creation of the workshops. I should say that one thing that Karen LoBracco explained to us is that these things should not be so hard to create. I just grabbed some resources online, put them in a time frame. I said, okay, boom, let's go. I publicized it in our congregation. These are the Sundays we're going to do it. Potluck. I had 5 people sign up, one of which had a kid. So it would have been 4 old ladies, a mom, and a kid. And I said, that's not fair. So I've gone back to the drawing board and asked them, was it the wrong time of year? Was it too many sessions? Do you want to have a one-shot, So I think the point of this is that when we're doing full week faith, is that it doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be really hard. It can be super flexible. I was down in the bookstore today, and so I have this full week faith lens now, and I'm looking at books, and I said, ooh, spiritual crafts. What can we do with that? We can have a knitting circle, and look, the questions are right there that we can send home for reflection. There's another one down in the bookstore I saw about coloring to pray, which is like why we pray and how we pray, and it's beautiful. And I thought, there we go. So, so my thought is that, you know, once you have this in your head and get to know your congregation and what their needs are, then, you know, I would say play around with it and try different things. So that was it for me.
Can I ask a question? Is this instead of the regular Sunday service, or is this another time?
It's another time. So I had this good question. I had this set up on a series of Wednesday nights. So potluck and then the second. Okay. Moving on to Michelle.
I'm Michelle Yates. I'm the consulting minister at Hamburg in this year. And so this is a bit of my context of the lens that I'm looking at this from. So small church, like we're thinking 30 or less members. Maybe you have a quarter-time minister, maybe you don't. Maybe you have nothing. Maybe you're it. And you have a limited availability to meet. For some reason, people are busy. You know, and here's the biggest thing. Even when they are free, it's never at the same time. And varied levels of interest. You know, when you have a large group of people, then you have the varied levels of interest. There's a bulk of enough. When you're small, well, there's 2 people who want to do this, and maybe you're lucky if there's 5 people who want to do that. So how do you find the niche in between? And this has new context for me as, you know, I'm a minister now, so I don't have a church of my own. So where do I get my spiritual faith formation stuff? I do a lot of stuff with CLF, Church of the Fellowship. But for some people, and even for me when I first started, it's huge, it's enormous, it's overwhelming. And also suddenly I have 3 kids. Marriage of convenience. And I realized I love church. On Sunday mornings, I don't want to get up and go to church. I'll be honest, I'm a minister, I don't want to do it. 5 days a week, I gotta get a bunch of kids, brush their hair, brush their teeth, get them out the door. I want one morning to stay home and sleep in and do nothing. And no, I want 2! It's not enough. There's sports on Saturday. And so how do we do this? Because I see this with our congregants. You know, there's just families who don't come all the time. And they're burnt out too. And so my goal is, how do we still connect with our faith values and our daily life issues along the whole spectrum of ages? How do we encourage spiritual growth for individuals in the church community? We talk about small group ministry, but sometimes the church is so small. Small group ministry is kind of like it's church ministry. So how do we get more of that spiritual depth that some people are craving and yearning for? And how, more than anything, instead of at the pulpit, how do we get that interdependent learning? How do we share our thoughts and inspirations with each other? You know, the idea that the pulpit is not the source of all wisdom, but that learning and growth and revelation that happens from people interacting with each other. So here are some of my bubbling concoctions. Having a minister's blog that's linked on the website to be working, now this is on the assumption that we're doing monthly worship themes to pick apart. Again, in a small congregation, your minister or person might only be there once a month. So the other times of the month, it's somebody random who wouldn't necessarily be on that worship theme. So how do we follow this worship theme the rest of the week? So minister's blog on that theme or on the topics or elements of that sermon. So people can kind of talk back. Oh, that was stupid. I think you're ridiculous. Or that really touched me. This has added to my spiritual practice. This idea of inspiration mail. We email out our monthly newsletter. Or you could also put it in the hard copy newsletter for people who don't do email, this intergenerational list. Kind of introducing this theme, talk about joy. How are you taking it home? Talk about maybe a blessing to do at mealtime. What kind of conversation can you have with whole family at mealtime, at bedtime, that engage this theme? You know, how do you bracket this getting some really gold mine sample activity cards that talk about taking it further. You know, what kind of maybe social justice activities, taking it out into the community, extra stuff you get to do. Using Facebook as a regular tool, like I get my daily compass from CLF. You know, how would it be to, you know, you're checking through your Facebook and you get regular quotes and thoughts and tidbits of theology beyond just from your smart friends. Bits of UU history and theology. Maybe articles, videos, TED Talks, discussions for reflections to kind of keep the conversation going. And the idea, has anyone ever heard of Post Secret? So for those of you who don't know, basically people will have like an index card and they will write their deepest, darkest secret in the whole wide world on this and submit it, and they will not put their name in it. And so it simply comes out. We're not talking about deep, dark secrets, but I like the idea of a level of anonymity and being able to just share and just put it out there. And a lot of us do that on Facebook, but some of us don't do the book of the face, or are the children in our congregation. So when I was little, we had like a prayer basket, and we'd write on the note in the prayer basket, and I couldn't wait till Sunday. I had so many names of people that needed to go in the prayer basket. And so this is the idea, as families or individuals are keeping a note, you know, how is this theme touching their life or interacting with them during the week, to come back on Sunday, have our own bulletin board just for that theme of the month, and to write your note on a Post-it note, and just fill up the Post-it board with that note. And so people can't wait, the kids can't wait to write, what are they thinking about? How is joy going on in their life today? To stick it on there. For people who don't do technology, to share in that way, and what a great piece for visitors to your church. Another completely out of the box thing that I didn't put on here yet is an idea for doing RE outside of Sunday or family worship, and I don't know how it would work. I've never tried it. Here, I'll put it out there and let me know if anybody's staying with it. I want to call it Fed Up Friday or Fried Friday or I Can't Take It Anymore Friday. And maybe the beginning of the month is a good time when you're suddenly like, it's the first of the month already, I can't take it. To have it on a Friday and to have people simply show up. You know, Friday's the one day I don't have to worry about chasing my kids down for homework and cramming in all this practice time to get them to bed on the school night. So just show up, and we will provide you with food, invite some members of the congregation who can do pop-up to do that, but to not make it mandatory. So you just come, just show up, have food and fellowship together, do a small kind of young adult modeled worship service, and then break off, and then the kids can do kind of a craft embodying that, and it does have a small group ministry type thing embodying that, and that's just a once a month. Any thoughts?
Hi, my name is Melissa Metkin, and I serve a mid-sized congregation in Schenectady, New York. So for 4 years now, I've run a 5-week parenting and spirituality class. We run it in late winter as a potluck with childcare, and it began with a program that was already in existence. We started with parents as resident theologians, and over time, it's really evolved to fit more the needs and the questions of the parents who are participating. This year, we began offering a program at the same time for children. We had done it as a potluck with childcare. Now we've added, there's still childcare, and then within that, a program. And so we built it slowly. We started with what people were, the discussion around parenting and spirituality was an important one that was going on with parents at that time. And so this year, we had already council members who were actually interested in leading it, and I ran the children's program and figured out how that would work. Short readings form the basis of discussions, while the children hear stories from our UU faith from spirit playing story baskets. They learn about our principles, they make chalices, they play games that are all ages games. So the programming brings together children of a variety of ages who get to know each other. And for a mid-sized congregation, this is an opportunity to commit to create more mixed age groups that we sometimes aren't able to offer in regular Sunday school morning RE class. It's also been an opportunity for new families to get to know each other in a more intimate setting that's like a small group ministry, and can offer a chance to really to look and to consider UU practices and theologies that families can bring home and practice all year round. I think it also brings back into focus that parents are primary religious educators, and that happens every day of the year, really. Not, as we were saying earlier, if we think it's all going to happen Sunday mornings, we don't have enough time. And so it also builds relationships between those families that carry on outside of the congregation, and as those children and adults get to know each other. And so for our congregation, this was really like a first round for me, thinking about how do we do faith development and looking at it through this lens of full week faith. And really, like I think has been already said too, you have to start where you're at. It has to be simple, it has to be doable. It can't be like, oh, we're gonna do this on Sunday and then we're gonna add this whole other piece on top of it, because that's overwhelming, even if you have paid religious educators, and not every congregation has that. So it has to do with appreciating ritual, like lighting the chalice, that brings us back to our faith, allowing parents an opportunity to discern their own religious beliefs around child raising that carry with them through the whole year. For spiritual practices, so here's an example too for us. We started where we were at. We have a number of adults who are well versed in labyrinths and labyrinth walking, and so they had helped me create a program where our youth, actually our middle schoolers, learned about design and created a labyrinth. So the labyrinth is the spiritual practice that we introduce, and we just return to it over and over. I mean, we also introduce meditation and practices that come out of my own history, but it's that it doesn't have to be a new practice every week, or here's the practice for this week. There's a labyrinth that we have that's year round. Of course, right now in upstate New York, it's covered with snow. That was not the case last year. But so I am always, we dedicate it every year. We keep coming back to this. Is always available. It's not a Sunday morning thing either. And then we introduce it to the children, and we have it available for the adults inside with the finger labyrinths. So those are in classrooms. We have them at times in places around, so they can use during the worship service as well. So I guess for me, I think while it can seem overwhelming, but if we start where we are, we see who's around us, and we work with what we have to share and to figure out where does this fit for bringing it home, and how do we move forward from there. So that's my best.
Hi, I'm Sonia Johnson. I'm Director of Lifespan Faith Development in Buffalo, New York, which is a large mid-sized congregation. And what I'm bringing to you today is some talk about social media, but also at this point I thought I was going to be the one who was pitch hitting, trying to catch up, because I thought people tend to talk long.
We were well rehearsed.
They were so good that we've actually got a couple of extra minutes, and so there's a couple of other thoughts that I want to share. A couple things that I have not planned on, but first let me cover this. This piece is just the idea of the social media groups. Michelle George touched on this as well, but there's a lot of potential here for bringing groups of people together who wouldn't typically get to be together. People who have a shared interest. This particular one, if you could read it, is voluntary simplicity. And we did unplugging the Christmas machine, and we also changed the little tilde after that and changed it to spring cleaning. And we've talked about food and a lot of other things around voluntary simplicity. And just each week, you kind of open a new topic around, what do you need to talk about this area in your life you want to keep simple. But so that group is voluntary simplicity. But there's also groups on climate change conversations or other, you can pick anything, social justice activities in your community. You can pick whatever topic it is that buzzing about and want more time to discuss, but they can't do it on Sunday morning. And so putting a little tickler question out there early in the week, and then people can come whatever time they get on Facebook, or you can do it on Twitter, whatever time they come together to see this and communicate about it. We have one group where we have, you know, a mom who stays home with young kids who never has time to have a grown-up conversation with somebody face to face, but manages to get into some good, rich stuff this way with the people in the community. So that's, the social media groups are a really good way to connect people of all ages who are interested in the same topic across, you know, transcending that time and space barrier of being in the room at the same time together. Another way that I've actually had some success in getting these age groups together is that we were having trouble getting our adult education classes going. We had parents who wanted to take parents as resident theologians, and we had some older adults who wanted to take the What Moves Us curriculum, which is about how our theology has moved from its beginning into its more current age, going from when we were pretty much Christian to the more broad, multi-theological approach we have these days. And so I got 3 for each. And I kind of talked to the parents and said, would you be interested in this class? It's more designed for adults, but by doing that work, you'll be learning a lot of things you need for yourself to be able to bring it to your children. And lo and behold, they were open to it. So then the next step is, how do I get them all together? And so I had a few people who I was starting with, and so I pulled them first. And lo and behold, a time that's just, you know, everything is 7 o'clock, right? You have your Tuesday night at 7 o'clock meeting, your Thursday night at 7 o'clock meeting. 7 o'clock isn't always the best time for people. We have a growing number of meetings that are happening at 5:30 in the afternoon. People leave work, they go to their meeting, they get it out of the way, and then when they go home, they don't have to overcome the inertia to go back home again. And so I've now got a class running at that time of day, and we have our access and inclusion meetings running at that time of day, and we have our finance committee meets at 5:30. So being flexible about the time of day that you meet. And once we got a group of people who said, yes, I can do it Thursdays at 5:30, then we put it in the newsletter to see how many more people we could get. Because there's nothing more discouraging than putting out, oh, I've got these 6 classes, I've got teachers for all of these things, but nobody can come on the time you said. So get your core group of people together first, find out what's good for them, and then that's a big way of getting more people in on those weeknight events. Also, something I haven't done yet, but I have a request for, is a 7:30 a.m. coffee chat. And that would be the kind of thing where you wouldn't come into church, but you would use social media, maybe not so much Facebook in this case, but more like Skype or Fuse or Google Hangouts. And while people are reading their newspapers together, they can share a little morning chat time. And so you can create a group of people who want to get together in that way in the morning. So being flexible and hearing those kind of ideas. So at this point,
Sorry, on the Facebook group, would you do a group by title, or would you do a group of people who would choose to interact or not?
I started with groups by title because and you can have any number of these, and I was keeping them relatively closed so that people could feel like it was a safe small group. So this is a members only group, but we advertise in our weekly email blast and in our order of service that we have them, so as soon as somebody wants to be involved, we let them in.
And it's a group, not a page.
Right, it's a group, not a page.
Remember that.
Can you explain the difference between those two, since I'm.
A page is more like a,
So your church might be a page?
yeah,
Right.
the church is a page.
Anyone
And
can
it's
go to it.
open.
So everybody
And
can
in
go
the
to
group, anyone can
anybody.
post. A page usually only the administrator can post, and sometimes people can comment on it, but I think you get settings for that.
And I think Facebook handles post to pages differently from how it handles
Yes.
post to groups.
Yes.
So how do the
So
groups work?
Everyone who likes a page doesn't always see a post to that page, but everyone in a group does see a post to the group.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Facebook has changed its how pages work. It doesn't matter how many people follow pages. And 10%, I do believe, of people following pages get every post from the page, the groups, and I know because I have several, not for church, for other things, and those automatically come in all news feeds.
Right, and
Which
you
is
always get
really
a little,
nice.
you get a little thing down, there's a sidebar here, and it'll say your groups, and it'll see if there's any new posts in it, so that you can always tell if there's something new. So that's one way to stay in touch.
Okay, I see.
And then, so we've had a whole lot of ideas. Oh, actually, I had one here while I was sitting here. I just wanted to share one other idea. So many people, not everyone, so many people now are Netflix junkies, right?
Or what?
Netflix
junkies.
Well, movie night again gets down to can we all get there on the same night? We have to get out and do all this. Because you had your Netflix movie every week, and then had your Facebook group to talk about it.
While you're watching.
While you're watching, or after, but so on your own time, you can watch this movie whenever you're ready, and then join in on the Facebook group discussion about what that was. So you can pick a movie, so that's my next idea. I had it while I was sitting right here, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. So we have ideas, but we know the prophet football believers have ideas too. And so right now, we'd like you to turn, face each other again, maybe 2 rows. So 2 rows together, just, maybe the front row turn around and the third row turn around.
This is the last workshop of the day. We can move the chairs any way we want.
So now we turn around and form a small group, and for about 10 minutes, for 10 minutes, write down the idea that you together come up with of what a full week faith experience might look like.
Your golden idea.
And you might want to take a fresh sheet of paper, and you may or may not want to write down Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes, that is
And
close.
as you hear them
Moderated as
about
well.
what day of the week that might want to go into for you. But what are some ideas that some of you came up with? Maybe group by group, or or you can just like popcorn. If you have an idea that you just really want to share, just kind of raise your hand and pop it up here. What you got?
Like one thing my group talked about is that where they had multiple activities and it was multi-generational. So multi gives them theme, which is multi-generational focus. I like that.
I like it. Anybody? Anybody else?
I heard one.
What did you hear?
I heard one where it's hard for everybody, it's ironically, everybody lives far from the church, so they have to drive 30 miles to get to church, but there is another place where they all live close to. and so then you have your coffee meetings, you meet at Starbucks to follow up during the week afterwards. I thought that was good.
Oh, no, not at all. Anything else? Yeah.
This might not be a specific idea, but it's something I kind of learned about myself. I work a lot in campus ministry, and I use Facebook and social media to get information out to people about meetings or topics or whatever. But I don't really use it as that community building or community experiencing piece. And I'm using social media like email.
Right. My constant struggle with the Facebook group is to put in just enough to get people talking and then pull back and let it go. And that's, it's like I kind of have to push, and then it takes off, and then I have to go, okay, let it be theirs now. And there's always there's a balance there in terms of how to get people into it. But yeah.
Well, I was wondering how to connect with the students over the summer, because they'll all go home, and we won't have that community. And I think that's something I'm going to absolutely try.
But the younger kids, they're not using Facebook anymore.
Right. And that's the other thing. There's Reddit, there's Tumblr, Instagram, and so we kind of need to figure out how to get into some of that stuff. And of course, as soon as all the adults find it,
That's
the
why
kids
they
will go
left.
somewhere else.
Because everybody's on Facebook.
the nice thing about Facebook is it doesn't go away until they're ready to interact with it, whereas when your email comes in, you might say, oh yeah, I have to look at that later, and then later doesn't get there right away, and next thing you know, it's dropped off the page, and you'd have to dig 10 pages back to find it, and by then you forgot about it. And so there's that, and then we need to better use our websites, because if we have something that links to the website, it's there for them to find. I'm still not doing a good enough job of that, but I do know that that's one of the things where no matter what your source is, if you have it in a place that's permanent, then it can be found. Even if they don't remember where they heard about it, they know to look for it on the website. So that's something else that we can work with. Any other thoughts, ideas? It was a lot of
There
conversation.
was a lot,
going
yes.
on. Yeah.
Well, we had a variety of people talk about different time frames, and I liked the last one. For
She and I'll be in it.
as a night owl. Everybody wants the 6 and 7 a.m. coffee cup.
Mine's like a 2 a.m. line meeting.
I saw
Right?
you. You shuddered. Like the possibility of joining a conversation, but after everything is settled down.
Right.
People are.
So like the 9:30 after you've tucked the kids into bed, you don't want to watch TV, you'd rather talk to your friends. So that could be another time. Or 2 o'clock in the morning if you really that kind of an item. There are those. There are. My son wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning because he's got friends here and he's got friends in Poland he's talking to, you know. And anything else?
There was some good conversation in the back corner.
So one thing one thing I'll mention is popcorn theology. So we use the popcorn theology for
I
our
don't hear the word you're saying, Dan.
popcorn theology or spiritual cinema. And we actually have two
It's a
things.
curriculum based on watching movies and having discussion questions that come after.
Yeah, we actually have both. The spiritual cinema we do with the families, adults only sometimes, and more kids oriented sometimes, depending on what movie we pick. And we do that roughly once a month. But the normal curriculum we do every Sunday as part of Sunday school. You watch about 20 minutes of the movie, and then you have a discussion. And it tends to be very thought-provoking. The kids are very engaged, and I can say it's got the best attendance RE's ever seen for teenagers.
And that's a curriculum by Michelle Richard.
Well,
You can find it
it's
online anywhere.
or high school. Yeah. It's not below it.
And also can be borrowed from your district library also.
Other thoughts? Gosh, they had so many, they were so animated.
Yeah,
Sure,
sure,
there's
of
ideas
course.
out there.
It's not developed yet, but I was talking
Of course
about
not.
how,
This is-
that
yes.
there's a concept that's being discussed in schools now about flipped schools.
Yes.
Where you get the lecture, you watch that at home, and then in school, you get guided practice with making it real, so to
Right.
speak, and that sort of thing, as opposed to the lecture in school and then figuring it out on your own and own. And I know Bethany Ward, our DRE, is like, I know she's gonna do something with it. I don't know
Oh, yeah.
exactly what it's gonna be yet, but she and her committee will, I'm sure, find some innovative way to do that.
Similar to that, we've had a thing after Surge Sundays where we do a TED Talk and then have a conversation.
Mhm.
We do it right after second service because that's when the middle school and the high school have their RE. So, and we call it TED and Pizza because we order pizza. We try to find out as much as possible how many people are going to come. We have the pizza there, so the teenagers come.
I would just throw in another resource, is that the Office of Faith Development from the UUA just had a webinar on flipped learning. So, and you can receive the recording. So if you look up FDO, Faith Development Office at the UUA, you can get some resources for that, on how to a flipped learning.
And Alti is all flipped.
Yeah.
The UU Leadership Team Institute, which used to be a whole week, then it was part of a week, residential, is now transitioning for an experiment of webinars for that, the content and on-site personal interaction for learning.
Right, so they're gonna do 9 sessions online and then 3 sessions face-to-face. So it'll be like 3 sessions online and then a meet to do activities, 3 more sessions online, then meet to do activities, 3 more sessions.
That's really very exciting. It makes it much more accessible to more people.
And they're trying to do it in the more local clusters so that people don't have to travel so far logic behind it.
And as a shameless plug, there's a course at Summer Institute for O&D, Church 2.0, that I'm going to be teaching, that we're going to be talking about social media, when do you use different types of social media, and also how to use WordPress.
Great. Great.
WordPress for blogging.
I do want to tie two groups together, and I'm not going to point out who I overheard because I was eavesdropping. But when we talk about kids and we talk about food, I'm gonna translate something I heard from one of the groups here, and that is that there's a concern that we're wrapping so much spirituality around junk food. And here's what I learned at our most recent con. Our kids didn't want junk food. When we hosted our con, they were very light on the junk food, very heavy on the healthy food, and they didn't want any soda at their con. The kids who planned this con. And I'm like, okay, there go all my preconceived And so because I heard this in a group, I actually want to put that out there and share that actually you may get more use with bananas and oranges and apples than you will with pizza.
Fruit roll-ups and individual
Maybe we're doing our jobs.
I bring fruit roll-ups and individual packages for our teams. I just bring a box and I hand out half a dozen to each kid. Because you don't teach teens on Sunday morning unless there's food involved. It's not pretty. But I won't do anything but healthy, and the kids know that.
Yeah, and I don't want to get real judgy about it, but I did want to just share that that was something that I've seen a shift among the teams.
That if I'm teaching, they know what they're going to get individually packaged, so we got good zoonosis control there. Nobody's hands in the jar, but it's healthy snacking.
Yeah.
And they really like that.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that's happened at our church this year that has really seemed to just explode suddenly with the people that are involved. Our music director, for one thing, has had a sudden renewed lease on life and has suddenly started a folk orchestra, a bell choir, a youth choir, and not to mention the regular adult choir that we always have. There are music groups meeting all the times of the evening and afternoon. Almost every day there's some kind of group that's doing music. From instrumental, and these are not professional people, these are just sort of lay people. And in addition, I lead now one night a week a 30-minute song circle. We come together right after work, but before dinner. We sing for 30 minutes. There's not food involved. We look into each other's eyes. We share music together for 30 minutes in a circle, and then we say goodbye, see each other next week.
Very powerful.
Before you all slip out, Karen's got these wonderful cards that she wants to share with folks. So Karen,
Giveaway, you want it?
Yeah, let's grab it.
I got free stuff for you.
Let's grab it. Without. Yeah.
The house release.
They strip